Welcome back to the It's Bigger Than Me podcast. I'm your host, Molly Trotter Gomez. You guys, I am so excited for this podcast. If you have obviously been listening for any amount of time, you know that your girl doesn't like to stay up here. We like to go in deep. And when I met Coach Keith at an amazing event called the Secret Knock in San Diego, I was just like instantly, there was just something that was drawing me to him. And when we started talking, it didn't stay up here for long. It instantly started going down deep. And I said, hey, man, you have to be on the podcast. And then finding out what he does of being I don't want to get it wrong, self-relationship coach, the self-relationship coach, the only one out there. It was just a no-brainer because what he's about to just pull the curtain back, shed light on all of the things are things that so many people need to hear, need to listen to. And there's just going to be some good meat to this. I just have a great feeling. So Coach Keith, welcome to the podcast. I'm very excited that you're here. Before we really take a scuba dive, because we're going to go in deep pretty quick. I have that feeling. Tell the folks at home a little bit about yourself so they can get to know you as well.
Yeah, I appreciate you having me on. Thank you. So I'm Coach Keith. I'm a best-selling author. I've authored a couple of books, and I've been a co-author on one. And my third book I'm really proud of is coming out this summer. It's going to be about relationship systems. So when I'm not writing, I'm coaching people one-on-one. I have a practice both in Northern and Southern California. I meet people on Zoom. I've been out to the NFL a couple of times and just corporate clients I speak in there. And my passion is just helping people come into better relationship with themselves.
So I have to ask, when people normally come to you, are they saying, hey, it's me, or is it the other person? Like, what do you see the most when people come to you?
Yeah, usually they come to me because they're trying to solve a problem, right? And it's a perceived issue of like a business or a marriage or an athlete that isn't performing well on the field and wants to perform better and get into a different mindset. Corporations want to solve problems with their employees and why aren't they performing as teams well enough? So they call me for an array of reasons, but it always comes back to the one reason, which is how do you view yourself? Like, what is the view you have? How in line are you with your higher self, with your values, with things that matter most to you in life? Where are you when it comes to that? And so typically it's always something over here, and then we kind of get back to like the focal point, we get present, and then things change as far as the conversation and the coaching goes. My
Absolutely.
coaching is much different. I don't have any answers. A lot of coaches out there that tout themselves as coaches are consultants or mentors because they're giving answers. But I believe that people are, naturally creative, resourceful, and whole. I mean, they have the answers inside of them, which is just my job to ask a lot of inquisitive questions to get those answers to draw out. So, I just approach things a lot differently than most coaches.
I appreciate that because you're right. Everybody does have the answer, quote unquote, right? But if you
Yeah.
ask those right questions and they can take that look deep inside and answer it, it's like, oh, I had this in here. It's just somebody taking the time to help lead me there. Now, when it comes to just when they've realized, hey, it's me, I need to take a deeper look inside. Why do you think people are so hesitant to, even start with themselves? Like, and they're always ready to point the blame. Like, where do you think that comes from?
I mean, I think I think we all have a level of trauma, right? Our subconscious mind is there to keep us safe. And I think people will stay within the realm of what that feels good to them. So I think that they don't want to go deep because it doesn't feel good, right? It's like you have to look inside. And most of us just like walk over the feelings we're having in the present moment, whether it's a relationship that just ended. Okay, great. I'll cry for an hour and then I'll just move on. I'll get back online. I'll date online. The business didn't work. Okay, I'll get a job. I'll join my friend's company. And we find a way to talk ourselves into feeling good. However, all that energy gets trapped within us
Mm.
and then also helps reprogram that safety mechanism in our brain. And so most people don't want to feel what it needs to feel to like get through things.
So how could they start? I would love to start there. How could they start learning how to feel so they can get through things?
Yeah, I mean, it's like living in the present moment, right? I mean, presence is everything. We've probably heard this a lot of times, right? Even from our parents when we were younger. But living in the present moment, a lot of people are bringing their past to the present. and then they're dealing with the past and the present moment. So they're not actually here right now, or they're worried about something out there in the future, and so again, they're not in the present. So I'd say number one is bring everything back to the present moment, because if you think about it, it's all we ever actually have. Right now, you and me are having this conversation. That's all that's there is. There's nothing else. It's all that's happening right now is this conversation. But most of us live our life like the next thing, or I have to blame that person, and then it brings the past into the present, which is not really a powerful way to live.
Absolutely. That is I remember when I was caught in that cycle where I was constantly living from my past and bring it into the present. And then it's just that's where people just really stay stuck. And
Yeah.
then luckily for me, I got around the right people. I got to see things from a different perspective. And I was like,
Mhm.
well, I don't want to keep repeating the same. I want something different. And that's where so many things I know changed for myself.
Yeah.
Now, I kind of want to take a pause for a second. I want to go backwards. Why did you become a coach that takes this
Mhm.
deep dive? Like what is your story? Like what is the give us some meat there, because obviously you can tell that you're passionate and you want to help people be present and really
Yeah.
be able to discover themselves. But tell us a little bit about your story and maybe a defining moment or something that got you to where you are today.
Yeah. So, oh, where do I start? So, I was a real estate developer, a very successful one in Newport Beach, California, and I built a lot of houses that everyone knows. There's been on television, and I was realized, over a long period of time that I wasn't feeling that great, even though I had all this success. I told the story this morning that I just remember leaving in my convertible Lamborghini, and I was driving down the street. And I was actually going to my son's baseball game when it hit me, and I'm like, I'm not really happy.
Mm.
I just closed a ginormous deal. Like most people have been like jumping from the rooftop, but I realized like I'm not really happy, and I kind of felt like this cloud over my head. And so, months of that went on, and I started speaking out about to friends, and they would say, "Stop talking like that. You sound weak. You're a
Mm.
man. Suck it up." Right? I've been hearing these mantras about men since I was young, and it goes back to the playground. Was like in 8 or 9 years old, somewhere around there. I fell down. I scraped my arm, and I was crying. I'll never forget. And there was an older kid on the playground. He comes over, slaps me across the face, and he says, "Boys don't cry," and called me a bunch of choice words. And I was like, "Whoa!"
Dang.
Right? And then from there, I went on to play football, and I had a successful football career. And I was playing in high school, and I was going to play in college. And the whole time, I always heard "suck it up." Men don't feel that way, right? And I was like, well, why not? Like, why can't just because I'm a man, I can't feel things? And so
Right.
it always like kind of tripped me up. So fast forward to the real estate is that when I was developing this real estate, I was having the same feelings, but all I knew how to do was just suck it up. Most men hear that, right? Hold it all inside is what that means, and don't tell anyone because of the perception that I might be viewed as weak. And so I didn't really tell anyone about how I was feeling often enough until one day I decided that life was just an option and I didn't want to live any longer.
Mm.
Whew. And in that moment, I decided to take my life, and I went down the road of what that would be like. And I put my car in the garage. I turned it on, and I prayed to God. I was crying again, telling God, "There's too much pressure. I can't take not." What I was really saying in that moment was, I can't take not living my true self, my true life. I wasn't saying those words, but looking back on that day, I was articulating the fact that I wasn't happy being the person that I am because it's not truly me. And so I lived, obviously, I lived through that event, and it made me really sick. And I decided to surrender my life to God. And I realized that real estate and the stress that came with it, and the arguing with Netflix, and just all the things that were over me, a business partner was stealing a lot of money from me. I decided that it was best for me to figure out what was best for Keith. And so, I took some time. I wrote my book, Embracing Vulnerability, 10 Steps to an Authentic Life. And that was like my 10 steps on how I nurse myself back to health, if you will. I went to a bunch of counselors, and no offense to counselors, but how can you help someone if you've never stood in their shoes?
Mm.
Truly. And suicide is a very specific act. When someone decides to end life, It's a very specific and it's a big deal. It's a huge deal. And no book on earth can get you to the feeling of what I felt that day. No book can get you to the feeling I feel today. So after many counselors, and these are well-known counselors, and I'm not saying they didn't do a good job, but I would always ask them the question, well, how did you feel when you decided to take your life?
Mm.
Oh no, Keith. Oh, I've never done that. Like almost like taboo. I said, that's exactly why you can't help me. And it wasn't until I hired a coach, a very good coach, that I was able to really come in relationship more with myself and really decide what was best for me and what wasn't. And then I drew a line in the sand and said, you know what, I want to help people. My book took off, it started doing really well. And I was like, you know what? I'm a landmark graduate from 99. I'm a Hoffman grad. I'm a PSI grad. So I've already been coaching people in my life anyway, like my whole life. I was like, I really want to do this. So the last almost year, I went back to school. I went to Coactive, the number one coaching school in the world. And I went all in. Like, there's probably only been a few students that did what I did, which is like back to back to back to back to back. Like I just literally got out of class again yesterday, my certification class, which was the last 6 months. I've been being critiqued as a coach, and they've been watching how I coach and giving me like, that's not good. Things like that. It's very rigorous, and most people don't even get through this part of it. So, yeah, helping people is like my passion because I know firsthand what it feels like when you don't have a good relationship with yourself, and then the lack of boundaries, and
Mm.
then all the things that you thought were good, and then you're like, that what didn't resonate with me. But I did it because my friends thought if I drove that car, I would be better. If I dated that girl, right? They thought I was cool, and the look from the outside, the perception, which I truly never really cared about. I grew up in a small town in Northern California. Everyone's very close knit. It wasn't a showy place. It was a very affluent place, but it wasn't a very showy place. So it was a very educated people. So I didn't grow up with this like mentality that you had to have it all. But somehow along the line, when I got down to Southern California, this mentality got into me that I had to have this look and this identity and all these things around me in my space, and it almost cost me my life. So,
Mm.
this is my passion to help people realize that everything starts within. All the relationships start within you and they transfer out. I don't care if it's your parenting, your businesses, your employee, or if you're an employee, whatever you want to do, your husband, your wife, your partner, whatever it is, God, it all starts here first and then translates out there. So my focus to help people is to come in relationship with yourself, with your values, your higher self, your best self, things that really resonate with you. So then you won't have to make those mistakes. You'll see it coming along the way and say, that's a boundary. I'm not going to do that.
Gosh, there's so much goodness in there, so much goodness. And yes, the Southern California charm gets you in, gets you into
Yeah.
its tentacles, and then you start getting caught up. I remember when I first moved here, I had some of
Yeah.
those thoughts too. And I was just like getting all caught up in all the weeds and all the things and the
Yeah.
the injection here and plastic surgery there. Not that I had any, but all those thoughts came
Yeah.
in and I was like, oh, whoa, 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 whoa. It's like this like film that comes over you, and you just have to
Yeah.
decide, is that me? Is it not? But
It's
there are
real.
so many opportunities. I try to look at things as opportunities. Why do I feel that way? Why is that important? And the more people I talk to that do those types of things, there is actually a lot of things about themselves that they want to change because they're trying to run from something. And other people have other reasons. But to your point, it's like when you really take that time to discover, who am I? Where is this
Yeah.
coming from? And I've learned along my route of coaching and just supporting people, it's like you have to ask why about 7 times to really get to the deep layer. Like
Yeah.
why? And you probably aren't asking enough if you haven't gotten down to it. And I know for myself personally, I've just gotten obsessed with how can I just like work on me and get me to a point where it doesn't matter where the validation or anything comes. And really, it's me and God, and then it's my husband, and then so on and so forth, whatever falls out
Yeah.
in line after that.
Absolutely.
But it took a lot of introspection and, like you said, good mentors and good people around you, people that aren't afraid to give you the critiques, the feedback of like, because they care and they know the impact that you're going to have. And so, I
Yeah.
mean, praise God that you went through all that route and you're doing things
Yeah.
that most
Amen.
people won't, because
Yeah.
just even talking with you here, I'm sure you're opening up just different doors and realms, if you will, of like, wow, I've never thought of it that way. You know, somebody seeing you driving in that drop top Lamborghini or whatever it is that you said that you had. Hey, he has it all. Don't think about that. Don't cry about that. Don't show those emotions.
Yeah.
When I know for myself as a female, definitely being more so A type, and I used to be super A type and masculine back in the day. The
Mm,
first time I ever saw a real man cry, when I say a real man, I mean like a burly man, like he was like
mm,
a Samoan dude, just like stacked, and then broke when we had this. We were doing this like leadership conference, and it changed
mm.
something in me of like, oh wow, for so
Yeah.
long, women view men as you cannot do this, and society says that, and all of that.
Yeah.
But the feelings and the emotions that y'all process, especially for us as women needing to be led and lean on you, right? Is
Yeah.
so important. So I just love the work that you're doing, whether obviously helping male, female, but it's the stuff that people need. They're looking for the strategy, they're looking for the money, they're looking for all these other things, but really it's like there's probably just a lot of healing that they need to do in order to obviously get those things that they're really
Yeah.
chasing.
And it's tough for men. I mean, here I am, I'm a man that wrote a book from a male's perspective, from a godly perspective, which I was also told not to do. And I did
Mm,
it anyway because it's who I am, and I'm never ever again gonna go against who I am for anybody.
come on.
But the thing is like, as men, we do harbor a lot because in our mind, we're the ones who are like kind of taking care of the nest, if you will,
Mm-hmm.
right? I mean, we all know that you're in charge at home. However, in our mind, right, the way we view it is like, okay, she's in charge, but I'm also like, I have to protect her also, who is in charge, right? That's how we view it. And so we harbor a lot of the stress and we don't talk about it. And how do I know that? It's because I've been doing this for years and all my clientele one-on-one are women. And so it's not that men don't ask me questions because they always do, but it's few and far between. Like, hey, how would they ask me like a one thing, and I'm like, oh, I don't solve problems for people, but let's have a session and we'll talk about it. And somehow that session doesn't come often.
Mm,
So I just know to men out there, it's okay to feel like my famous quote is, just because I'm hurting doesn't mean I'm weak.
mm.
And I said that and it went viral. And the reason why is because it's true. I'm hurting. I'm probably hurting right now in some capacity, right? I'm not ever going to be through all that's happened to me in this life. However, there is a way to deal with it. And I believe, especially now with all the anxieties, I can imagine like I'm losing my ass in real estate to this day. I got two properties left and I'm like, oh my God, I'm losing, right? We don't know what's happening in the world. There's all this like uncertainty and government jobs are being lost. We haven't seen that in the last 20 years.
Right.
All these things happening, but I believe as a community we can heal this together, but we have to talk about it. And talking about it doesn't mean we're weak, it means we're human. And we just have to talk about it. So I encourage men to step up and let's talk about it. Let's open the conversation. Women, are you got it down. You got
We
it
are
down.
innate beings.
Yeah. You know how to call your girlfriend and say, you know what, this doesn't feel good to me. Men, we say it and then we look at each other like, what's he thinking? You know what I mean?
Right. Is he gonna cry? Is he gonna like, is this awkward? We gotta run. Let's go do something else.
Yeah, okay, forget that. Let's go have a drink.
Mm-hmm.
Let's go, do things that aren't healthy for our bodies. Let's watch that pornography. Right? Let's do things that get our mind off things versus dealing with what's on our mind. So I just encourage anybody who's dealing with anything, let's deal with it head on. Let's get past it before it does something to you. Because still to this day, suicide is really relevant. It's middle-aged men,
Mm.
number one, and then women are catching up, but it's middle-aged men. And this is why, because we're not talking about the things that are on our mind.
Yeah, that's so good. And there's so many different instances throughout this conversation of, just create the space for people, create the
Yeah,
space. Like we are wired. I mean, scripturally, we are wired to carry each other's burdens. Doesn't mean we have to carry the weight, but allow people just to talk and just to be heard and be
100%.
understood and let
Yeah.
emotions flow. I remember as a female, I used to actually think crying was weak for females. I was like, I can't be around a
Mhm.
bunch of these weak women. Like, this is crazy. Well, the
Yeah,
joke's on me because over 5 years later, now we have a massive global women's organization and we're all in the feelings and in the healings and
yeah,
in the cryings and all the things. And I'm
yeah,
like, wow, how the tables have turned because I used to see it as weakness being grown up with brothers. But now it's like your vulnerability, your emotions actually is strength. And the
Yeah.
person who can show those emotions is actually one of the strongest people in the room. And
Yeah.
so I love how you really center a lot of things around that vulnerability, because I know for some
Mhm.
people, the V word is a curse word. They would never go there ever, ever,
Um,
because it's too much for them. And so, kind of as we're wrapping up today, I mean, there's so much goodness that's in here. And obviously, people are going to want to know how to connect with you, Coach Keith, and I'll have all that in the show
and
notes.
real quick, you just said something I want to touch
Yes,
on, if you don't
please.
mind, really quickly, is you said you grew up with brothers.
Mhm.
So you had a hard time because of the stigma that they felt, right? And
Mm.
what I want to say to you women is that don't you feel better when you're able to be in your feminine versus your masculine all the time? Like, I'm sure, like in the workforce, because there is still an injustice on women that I hope to God changes, but there still is this injustice that men will get a higher pay and a better job over women, and that still is like that, and it shouldn't be. But however, so I understand why women would be in their masculine when they're outside the house. But what's happening is the breakdown of the family unit is
Mm.
because women are bringing that masculine energy back into the house. And I'm not saying like we have to go back to the caveman days, but I'm saying that if you look at that energy that's coming and then look at the divorce rate. In
Mm.
Orange County, it's 70%.
Yes.
California, I don't know. It's got to be at least 50% across California itself. I'm not sure statistically across the United States, but if we look at the numbers, what does that tell me? Right? It tells me we have an imbalance. And so I ask women, like, how does it feel to be in your feminine? They're like, what's that?
It's
I
true.
mean, what do you mean, right? Like, and they view a man as weak. They view your husband as weak. They view him not stepping up. And then I ask the question, are you allowing the space for him to step up?
Mm.
Right? Because life was supposed to be balanced. Women were supposed to be, I think people read scripture, right? You're a godly woman,
Yeah.
and we take scripture out of balance,
Mm.
right? And every man knows the scripture that my wife should be doing this and she should be doing that, right? And she should be, right? But however, are you listening to your wife? Are you taking what she says to heart? Or are you saying like, you better do this because I am the man, right? So it's like the space needs to be on both sides, but I would love our women to be more open to this space, right? Because I truly believe that the Bible was written for our benefit and it is the Word of God, right?
Yes.
And that Word of God is alive today and it's real. And like you said, you had a hard time being in your feminine energy because of your brothers were in their super masculine because they had to show their sister and no one's gonna touch my sister and she's like, all these things, right? So you're like, oh my God, I'm like, and you embrace that. But now you're married. I'm sure you and your husband are good. But you know what I mean. I'm sure you are embracing your feminine also. And I'm just like, hey, how does that feel? Does that feel better to be in your feminine, right? And I think
Yes.
that's the conversation I'd love to talk more about in the future because this is where we have a big breakdown in life, and the devil is at work attacking people. And it's so easy nowadays to attack the marriages and to attack men and to attack women. I think that if we can solve that, we can make this world such a better place.
I agree. I actually just saw my mom sent me something that had it was like a parallel from a prophet that was talking about the new Snow White movie and how
Mm,
there's no Prince Charming. Snow White basically is in her masculine. She's like bossing everybody around. And it's all this programming that's been happening for years of
yeah,
women stepping up and leading. And there's no problem with women leading, but like also knowing just kind of the order in certain things. And for
yeah,
me, I always stepped into a leadership position. I knew I was meant to lead from a very young age. It was very evident, but I
yeah,
did struggle when I got married. We've been married for almost 5 years now. And it's like,
yeah,
I tell people, it took me like almost like 4 years to submit to my husband, to truly actually in my heart know how to submit because of
yeah,
how I was raised and just things that happened to me in my past, obviously trauma that
yeah,
pushed me into, well, no one's going to do that again. And I'm going to take the reins and we're
yeah,
going to just get what we need to get. And that's what it's going to be.
mhm,
Until
yeah,
I found a man that allowed me to be in that space where I can be feminine, where I can let my hair down and I can be, that go getter that is part of my personality, but also have that love and that nurturing and so many things that honestly I didn't get to see growing up because my mom had to step into her masculine for a variety of reasons. And
yeah,
to your point, like when is enough enough? Because you're right, when women do get to be in a place where they are designed to be and their femininity is one of their best superpowers, if you will, that God gives us, it is such a beautiful thing. And then the
sure is.
ecosystem, like you said, within the home, women, how
Yeah,
they show up. how they speak, just the sweet and soft, but doesn't mean they have to be a doormat.
No,
But the sweet and soft is so important. And I know, truth
no,
be told, took me a while. It took me a while. My husband and I were like, like we just kept butting heads until I was like, okay,
yeah,
Lord, what are you trying to show me? So I think that is definitely a topic that I would love to have you back on and definitely go in, because that is a right now topic to get people to understand this is a plan of the enemy. Let's push men out. Let's try to make them weak, have women rise up. And then they're wondering, where are all the men? What's happening? And that's
yeah.
happened. Doesn't mean it's happening everywhere, but let's
No, but this is
stop
a
it.
big problem in social media, and we got these dating apps, and people
Yes.
are becoming like this. What's a human? Oh, not good enough. Swipe left. Good enough. Swipe right. Like, are you
Right.
kidding me? Like, what is this that we're creating in society? And then what we're not realizing is this is generational stuff.
Mm,
This is now going to be to your children and their, this is like, when
yes.
does this stop, or does this never stop? You know,
100%.
yeah. So I love to talk about that though.
Yes, no, totally. I know one of the things before we jump off, and I'm like, gosh, we could just be on here for an hour, is
Yeah.
I tell people all the time, and this is a whole pod in and of itself. I am 35 years old, and the world's asking me when I'm going to have kids. You're late. Why don't you want to have kids? I'm like, trust me, I do. But the Lord specifically shared with me, I want to break things off in you and your husband before the kids come. And I gave the space. I didn't force it. I didn't get frustrated. I gave the space because that's how important I believe, for me, at least my family, like he gave me that word and said, just be patient. It's coming. Because right
Yeah.
now, I'm old. I'm going to be an old mom, which I'm not. I rebuke that. But it's one of those where, when is enough enough? When are you going to stop the things that keep repeating itself? And so my husband and I, we've definitely, the enemy's had it out for us plenty of times because of the things that we're breaking off from both of our lines
Yeah.
before it comes through the
Yeah.
lineage. And so I want
Yeah.
to encourage anybody that it will take work, but it'll be so worth it. And even if you do have people, obviously, and have kids and family and all of that, it's never too late, because people are always watching and you always have an opportunity to be an example.
Yeah, or I will say to you from a coaching perspective, because you open the door, is that, it's really that piece of your brain, that saboteur voice that's telling you I'm too old,
Mm,
right? It's not really you in your best and highest self saying that. So the question would be, I'll leave you with, what's important about having kids?
mm,
And then when you align with that answer, the rest will just work itself out.
absolutely.
That's now or in 10 years from now.
Yeah.
Your time.
Thank you for that. No, I believe all of that. I only say that, and I should have prefaced, that's what society loves to tell me. And I'm like, I am in my prime. I feel better. I'm in better shape, and I'm taking care of myself
Yeah.
mentally, physically, spiritually. But you're absolutely right. The whole point is, if I'm waiting this long, how can I make myself the best that I can be and break off the things that I can before they come? And it just, even if you're not even thinking about a family, for everybody who's listening to this, do it for yourself. Do it for
No.
yourself. Do it for the people you care about. But like yourself, you being the self relationship coach, at the end of the day, we can worry about everybody else, but we have to focus on ourselves first.
Yeah. 100%. Yeah.
Coach Keith, this is amazing. We'll for sure have you back, because obviously we dovetailed on a couple different conversations, and I'm like, gosh,
Yeah.
I want to have more. And I know they're going to want more. So is
Yeah.
there anything else
Definitely.
you'd love to leave us with? Guys, you have everything in the show notes to be able to go connect with him, get his book, get in his
Yeah.
atmosphere, all the things, because clearly this guy is just nothing but a well of wisdom.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. My website's coachkeith.com. I do a free hour session. So if you want to come to see what coaching's all about, see if it's for you, see what becomes resonant during the session, I'd love to talk with you.
Awesome. Well, again, thank you so much for your time today. I know you are a busy and wanted guy, so I'm honored to have
Mhm.
you on the podcast, and just thank you again for blessing us with your wisdom today.
Yeah. My pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much for taking the time to listen to this episode. It means the world to me that you would lean in, listen in, and be able to hear the value that's being shared on this show. Don't forget, if you love this episode, rate the show, leave me a review, be sure to share it with a friend, and don't forget to tag me on social media. I will definitely be giving you a shout out. Also, come say hi, drop in the DMs. I would love to be able to hear what stood out to you the most on the episode, and if there's any topics that you would like to hear on the show. We'll see you next time.